Bill, speaking of Hugh Gregg, why don't you kind of take a shift now and talk a little bit about your political involvement and how normal that was for lawyers and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, it was. I mean, there were very few political campaigns around in which the lawyers weren't involved somewhere directly or indirectly. I knew Hugh Gregg very well in law school. He and Kay used to, he was a year ahead of me. He and Kay used to entertain Joan and me. We'd see them a little in Cambridge from time to time. When he came back, started to practice in Nashua, as you would with an old friend. I used to see him. So when Hugh got to, I obviously wasn't involved with him politically while he was running for alderman and mayor of Nashua, but I used to watch him coming on. But I was active when he ran for governor, just at the local level. Then he got into, the next time around, he got into those primaries with Wesley Powell, and one was very, very close, and I represented Hugh in the recount up in the Senate chamber, and I stayed, I continued to have a friendly relationship with him all through the years. I think the most active part I ever took in a campaign was for John Pillsbury when he ran for governor against John King in the first campaign. And while we were riding around Manchester on election day at that time, John Pillsbury said to me, "You know, Bill, one of these days a Democrat's going to be elected governor in New Hampshire again, but I don't think it's going to be today." And regrettably, he was wrong. He was very wrong. 40,000 votes he lost by. It wasn't even close. And I've maintained and still do, just as a personal observation, that I think John Pillsbury was the best qualified man to run for governor in my lifetime in this state. I used to admire him as a legislator when I was in the Attorney General's office. I used to watch him in the well of the House, watched him in committees. He was knowledgeable, he was articulate, he'd had experience in Washington. He had a lot of political liabilities. He was assistant to the president of the Public Service Company in New Hampshire. That didn't help him. And there were a number of other things that contributed to that. But and the time had just come, obviously. He ran again 2 years later. I couldn't go through it the second time, and when he came to see me, I told him that. And I told him I didn't think he ought to do it either, but he did. And the second time around, he lost by 80,000 votes. That made it pretty persuasive. I also had worked pretty hard for Senator Tobey in his campaigns against Wesley Powell, because Bill Finney was Tobey's campaign manager, and I obviously was drawn into that. And I worked, needless to say, very hard for Perkins Bass when he ran for the Senate. It was our partner, and that was the time that Tom McIntyre was elected.